What is up everyone, and welcome back to another video. My name is Jax, and on this channel we do all sorts of geek related content. So if that is something that interests you, feel free to hit that subscribe button for more geek culture content. In today's video, I am going to be discussing some of the questions that I have after watching Spider-Man No Way Home. Now the movie came out on the 16th of December, so I watched it on Thursday night, and it's currently Saturday, so I've had a bit of time to think about some of the questions that have been on my mind since watching the movie. So that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Now today's video is not a review of the movie, but just a few questions that I have. Now it goes without saying that in this video we're going to be discussing tons of things that happen in the movie, so here is your spoiler warning. If you have not yet seen Spider-Man No Way Home, now is your chance to stop the video and come back after you've watched the movie so that nothing of the movie is spoiled for you. With that spoiler warning out of the way, let's get right on into some of the top questions that I have after watching No Way Home. So to start off, one of my favorite things in the movie was the return of Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, or Daredevil. Seeing him there as Peter's lawyer was absolutely fantastic. But the question that I have now is, when are we going to see Matt Murdock return to the MCU? Many rumors and speculations out there on the internet speculate that we will next see the return of Matt Murdock in the upcoming Disney Plus series She-Hulk. And with the appearance of Vincent D'Onofrio reprising his role as Wilson Fisk, or Kingpin, in this week's episode of Hawkeye, I don't think it's going to be too long at all until we see the return of Matt Murdock in the MCU. The other question that I then have is the Matt Murdock or the Daredevil in the MCU, is it going to be a continuation of his story in the Daredevil Netflix series, or is it going to be a reboot, or are they completely reworking the character? That is something that I'm super interested to see what they do with the character in the MCU. My next question is Venom coming to the MCU? In the first post-credits scene of the movie, or the mid-credits scene of the movie, we saw Tom Hardy as Venom sitting in a bar somewhere, talking to someone about everything that's going on in the universe, some guy trying to explain the blip to him, and him just not comprehending what's going on, thinking everything's going crazy, and then suddenly we see him sort of phase away back into his separate universe. However, we are left behind with one final shot of the symbiote Venom sitting on the bar counter in that bar. This obviously now confirms that the Venom symbiote is in the MCU. However, due to character rights with Sony and Marvel, it's still a bit up in the air as to whether we are actually going to see Venom in the MCU. My one hope is that they do keep the actor of Tom Hardy to play Eddie Brock, because I have really loved his performance as the character of Eddie and his portrayal in the Venom movies. My next question is, will Ned pursue the mystic arts? In the movie, Ned mentions that his family has got ties to magic, and we see him using the Doctor Strange's sling ring on multiple occasions in the movie with relative ease, something that the Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange, or not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, but Doctor Strange struggled with initially during his training, yet Ned was able to use it with relative ease. We also saw the Cloak of Levitation come and save Ned whilst he was falling off the scaffolding at the Battle of the Statue of Liberty. However, with the events of No Way Home, the question then arises of, does Ned remember any of his time spent with Spider-Man? Does he remember the battle at the Statue of Liberty? Does he remember using the sling ring? Or has he completely forgotten all of the experiences along with forgetting Peter Parker? I personally want to believe that he remembers those experiences, except he just remembers them as experiences with Spider-Man as opposed to experiences with his best friend Peter Parker. We can see in the scene where Peter goes to visit Aunt May's grave, he encounters Happy Hogan there, who is clearly acquainted with Aunt May through Spider-Man, but isn't aware of the person of Peter Parker. So clearly he still knows of those experiences, he just doesn't know of Peter. So that's what I'm really hoping is happening with Ned. He's still going to remember those experiences of hanging out with Spider-Man, and he's going to remember encountering Doctor Strange, using the sling ring, and his abilities for magic, and clearly his aptitude for it. He just won't remember Peter Parker. So that is a really interesting question of, will Ned pursue the mystic arts? My next question also has to do with the erasure of Peter Parker. Did the erasure only affect living sentient beings, or did it affect computer systems as well? This leads on to the question of, who is the heir to Stark Industries, and will computer systems such as Edith still remember Peter Parker? Will Peter have access to the Stark technology, or will he not? I personally think that he will not have access to the Stark technology going forward, because this has often been a gripe with many fans of the MCU, is that the Peter Parker Spider-Man of the MCU was too reliant on Stark technology, whereas we see at the end of No Way Home him making his own suits and forging his own path, having to be self-reliant as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He no longer has the backing of the Avengers or the backing of Stark Industries. Another question, or not so much a question, but just a thought in my mind, is the complete absence of any referral to an Uncle Ben in the MCU. So far, the only reference we've ever had to an Uncle Ben existing in the MCU is the suitcase used by Peter in Far From Home when he travels overseas with the initials BFP for Ben F. Parker. Tobey discusses the death of his Uncle Ben, and it is a bit strange that there's just, throughout the MCU, there's no reference to Ben Parker in the MCU, and that the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man is not able to empathize with this loss of Uncle Ben. Is it possible that Uncle Ben died before the MCU version of Peter Parker was born, or before he came into the care of Aunt May? These are just some questions that we have. Another question is, now that all the villains have been cured, so to say, when they return to their own universes, are they still doomed to die? Or have they now created variant timelines where these characters now survive beyond their battles with Spider-Man in these universes? So there we have it. Those are some of my top questions and thoughts after watching Spider-Man No Way Home. If you have any other questions or theories or thoughts about the movie, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please feel free to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more content like this in the future. Until next time, this has been Jack's Cosplay.